are 22 days away from the NFL Draft. Welcome to this SportsCenter special Field Yates Mock Draft 4.0. And it's not just one round, about two rounds to talk about as you see the big board there. And we are ready to go. We've got the godfather of the NFL Draft. That is Mel Kiper Jr., as well as our draft analyst, Matt Miller. They are here to break down this man's mock, and that is Field Yates.
Bring it on.
He's feeling really good about the picks in front of us here over the next 60 minutes. The Titans on the clock at number one. Where do you have them going?
It is close to being written in Sharpie by now, Kevin. Let's go to Cam Ward, the quarterback out of Miami. Let's just follow the tea leaves from this offseason. Allen and Tim Boyle. What does that tell you? They are certainly in the quarterback market, and no quarterback is a better bet to go high in the draft than Cam Ward, who had a dazzling season in college. His final season in college being at Miami, one of three schools he played at. To me, it's a no-brainer. Cam Ward, number one overall to Tennessee.
Okay, keep in mind, in this mock, you can make trades. Yeah. We do have some trades later in the first round, later on. So Cam Ward goes off the board at number one here, Mel. You have Shedeur Sanders number one when it comes to the quarterback rankings. What do you think of this pick of Ward going to the Titans?
If you watched the Titans last year, the offensive line was awful. Right tackle was one of the worst ever at that position. It was a turnstile. So for Cam Ward, the mobility, to escape, to be able to make throws with different arm angles, to make the wow plays, that's what he allows you to do. He doesn't put as much pressure on the offensive line as Shedeur Sanders does. Doesn't mean he's going to be a better quarterback, but coming into the NFL from Miami, where he lit it up this year, he cut down the mistakes. The sacks, he didn't take as many, right? He cut down the fumbles, okay? He still is a little reckless, a little careless, still puts the ball in harm's way time to time. He'll miss a layup throw once in a while, but for Cam Ward, the wow factor leads him to becoming a Tennessee Titan.
Yeah, whether any of us have him rated this highly, I don't think any of us have him as a top 3 player, top 4 player. The Titans have to take this pick. And when we do mock drafts, it's what we're hearing, what we think will happen. I think we're on agreement. It's what we think will happen. They've really put themselves in a position where they have to because they didn't get into the veteran market. I like Cam Ward. He is my top quarterback in this draft for all the reasons you guys pointed out. The arm angle, the velocity, what he does with escapability. He can beat you up as a runner a little bit. One thing that I want to drill down on, though, is the Titans need to give him more weapons. We saw Cam Ward elevate teams at Incarnate Ward at Washington State, but he was a round 3 or round 4 player when he left Washington State and went to Miami. Something he had with the Hurricanes, Xavier Restrepo, Elijah Arroyo, running back Damian Martinez. The Tennessee Titans need to continue to add weapons around Cam Ward. Now, he can be a scorer. He can be a shooting guard, someone that can move around to find those passing angles, that can score with his legs. But I also think one of his best assets is he's a distributor. He can get defenses panicked with his legs, and he can find the open man. So if I'm the Titans and Cam Ward's my guy, the job's not done on offense. We've still got to continue to add to give him more weapons in the passing game.
Agreed on that, Matt. And one thing we have talked about consistently over the last 6 or so months, at the top of the wide receiver board this year is not the same tier as it was last year when we had 3 players taken in the first 9 picks, including 2 of the first 6 picks being Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. The depth of this year's class, to me, is far superior to last year's class, really across the board, but definitely at wide receiver. So whether it's pick 35, which is Tennessee's second-round selection, or subsequent selections, remember, they do not have their third-round pick. That went to Kansas City in the L'Jarius Sneed deal. There are opportunities for Tennessee to amplify the weapons around Cam Ward, other than, at least amongst the wide receivers, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, to the point about Will Levis, he's got to be sitting there saying, why didn't you do this for me? Can you at least give me a shot behind this offensive line? They're moving J.C. Latham back to right tackle, right? He was at left tackle as a rookie and struggled. Right tackle was awful. Now you go and make some changes there. You get a couple of veterans in there to help this offensive line. It should be significantly better than last year, which will help out Cam Ward, who does bring that ability to move around within the pocket, move right, move left, and avoid and create. So this offense around the quarterback, particularly the fortress, that group up front when that O-line will be, and hopefully, and make that one of the
Still
best
got
offensive line
Kiper
coaches
campaigning
in the
for
history of
Will
the game,
Levis.
Bill Callahan.
Gotta love
that group's got to be significantly better. If it is, it will impact not only Ward, but we'll see what happens with Levis down the road, whether he's a Titan, whether he's a backup, whether he competes or whatever. But for Cam Ward, he's coming into a much better situation this year than what we saw last year with the Tennessee Titans offense.
All right, now keep in mind, too, Ward is a heavy favorite to go number 1 overall, according to ESPN Bet at minus 2,000. And the draft after that first pick could really pivot as early as 2. The Browns need a quarterback here, Field. Shador is there. What do they do?
Yeah, Kev, Matt mentioned that these mock drafts are a blend of intel and also what we would do or some of our own expectations. Well, the intel suggests Cleveland's not going to take a quarterback number 2 overall. It's kind of a coin flip from there. Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I landed on Abdul Carter, the number 2 player on my board overall, right behind Travis Hunter, the terrific pass rusher out of Penn State who had 12 sacks last season. This guy was dominant even in the playoffs, and he was playing through significant shoulder pain. Now, he has been a bit beat up during the pre-draft process, has that broken foot that he is still working his way back from, but aren't scary. 2 years ago, they were outstanding under coordinator Jim Schwartz, took a big step back across the entire board. Last year did the Cleveland Browns. They could get back on track and be closer to a playoff contender if their defense
you're a Browns
was
fan
like it
out
used
there,
to,
let me know
as
what you
opposed to
think of this
expecting
pick
the
in the
offense to
comments.
get
But
there
if I was a
based on
Browns
all their
fan, I
quarterback
would
wins
love this
over the past
pick.
few years.
Yeah, and they
I'm not trying
pass
to
on a
reach at
quarterback
quarterback.
opportunity here at number 2 and go with Carter. Matt, what do you think about this? Do you agree on this decision by the Browns brass?
Yeah, absolutely. Carter's the best player in the draft, in my opinion. And the Browns have been bad my entire life. They haven't been good because they make bad decisions in the draft. And I think something that they have to get away from is that idea of, oh my gosh, we have to get a quarterback or we have to draft a left tackle. Coach up, guys. They went to the playoffs with Joe Flacco at quarterback. They don't have to have a number 2 overall pick at the quarterback position. Turn a strong unit into a dominant force. Put Abdul Carter opposite Myles Garrett with some of the other weapons they have on defense with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, with Denzel Ward. This could be one of the best defenses in the NFL. Shador Sanders is not making this one of the best offenses in the NFL. Not with the problems they have at left tackle, in the running back room.
Yeah, the
O-line's
O-line's
been
been
terrible.
terrible.
Wide receiver. They need another tight end. Shador Sanders is not going to put this team over the top of the quarterback position. Don't reach. Take Abdul Carter and give yourselves a shot.
As a Pats
with
fan, I want
veteran,
Abdul
probably
Carter
Kirk
at
Cousins,
4, but
and have a strong, dominant
if I was the
defense
Browns, I
that
would
can
do
get
it.
you at least into a competitive playing field next year.
Yeah, bad decision after bad decision at quarterback. Go back to not taking Josh Allen, number 1, but then you get Baker Mayfield, looks pretty good, and you get rid of him. Then you make the worst trade in NFL history for Deshaun Watson. That's why you're where you are right now. But I'm with you guys. Abdul Carter opposite Myles Garrett. Are you kidding me with the wide 9 and Jim Schwartz? They've never had that. He's arguably the best player in this draft right there with Travis Hunter. So for this particular team in the AFC with all those great quarterbacks in this division, you got to stop them as well. Not just about scoring points, but stopping those quarterbacks and having Carter opposite Myles Garrett. How the heck are you going to block those two? Double Carter, a double Garrett? What's Carter doing out there one-on-one? He's getting 10 to 15 sacks a year.
Keep in mind, Carter's 19.6.
My general
pressure
thing is
rate
if you're a
off the
team
edge,
picking in the top
best
5,
in
the player
FBS
you
in
pick
2024.
needs
And
to
then you
be
got Myles
a
Garrett on
sort
the
of
other
Hall of
side.
Fame
Unbelievable.
or
That's a
like
nightmare for
team Hall of
everybody
Famer
in the
anyway, like
AFC
one of your
North.
best
Field, the
players in
Giants,
franchise
they also
history.
need a quarterback, despite
That
signing
kind of
Jameis Winston
ceiling.
and Russell Wilson. They have talked about value at 3. Big decision here for the front office.
It sure is, Kevin. They end up making Shador Sanders a 3rd overall pick in the draft, the second
Okay.
quarterback taken, 16th on, and Jameis Winston. This offseason suggests to me that they are for sure fixtures for the Giants' massive quarterback problem that team owner John Mara talked about on January 7th when they decided to keep both Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll going into this offseason. Shador has pristine accuracy, doesn't have great size, not a great athlete, but did a ton of winning at the collegiate level. I do believe he has the right DNA also to handle the pressures that come along with playing under the New York Lights.
Well, they nailed last year's pick with Malik Neighbors. Now you get to pair him up with a quarterback and some direction here, especially for that head coach and that GM. Are you okay with this pick here, Mel? At number 3, the Giants going quarterback with Shador Sanders.
Yeah, I like Shador Sanders a lot. Think about Brian Daboll. He had Josh Allen. Who do you want last year? He wanted Drake May. Couldn't get him, right? Did he take J.J. McCarthy? No, he did not, right? So now you're saying, is Shador Sanders the right fit for Brian Daboll? They're in a predicament here of looking at maybe the best player on their board. His best player on my board is Travis Hunter. He's there. You're picking 3. Shador Sanders is 5 on my board. So you get the number 1 player. You pass on, take the number 5 player just because he's a quarterback? Maybe not. How about this scenario? You get Travis Hunter right at 3. Shador Sanders drops. You trade back into the first round and get Shador Sanders. So you got Hunter and Sanders if you're the Giants. That's a scenario possibly could take place in Fields' mock draft 4.0. He's got Shador at number 3 to the Giants. I would have no problem with that.
Yes, I have no problem with it. And I go back to what Fields said. I don't think signing Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston precludes the Giants from drafting a quarterback at number 3. But you have to love that quarterback because for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, your job is on the line. And I think this would be a move where it almost has to come down from ownership, from John Mara to say, go get the quarterback this year, because you're drafting a player that ideally isn't even playing for you in a year when your job is on the line. That's what makes it a tough sell for me. It is where Travis Hunter would be a very exciting prospect. You could have him play opposite Malik Neighbors. He could play corner, which has been a huge area of concern for the New York Giants, an area that they've tried to fill via the draft, via free agency. They haven't been able to do it. So Travis Hunter would be hard for me to pass up here. But again, this goes back to ownership. And I do think that the Mara family has to get more involved after last year when they doubled down on Daniel Jones. They let Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney go. Both go to playoff teams. Saquon wins a ring. So I do think the Giants, could they take Shedeur Sanders? Absolutely. Yeah. But this has to be a top-down decision from this organization.
Yeah, to me, that's the important part, is if you love Shedeur Sanders, everything that has taken place up to this point in the offseason, Kevin, is irrelevant. You take the player number 3 overall. Again, my own personal pick would be Travis Hunter in this scenario. But I don't think that what has taken place so far should tell us that with certainty the Giants are no longer considering a quarterback. I was thinking back to the 2017 NFL draft, Kevin, when the Chicago Bears owned the 3rd overall pick. In free agency, they signed first Mike Glennon to 3 years and $42 million worth of a contract, and then signed Chase Daniel to a 2-year, $10 million deal. They get to the draft, and they don't take a quarterback at 3. They trade up to 2 to get Mitch Trubisky, 2nd overall. And all of a sudden it became this, how soon does Mitch Trubisky end up playing? The answer was right away in Chicago. So basically what I'm saying is, yeah, sometimes these actions do matter, but sometimes teams make actions in March and then use the subsequent 5 weeks to refine their plan going into the draft. And the Giants may say, we don't plan on picking number 3 overall again anytime soon. Let's take our swing at a quarterback.
By the way, that's the draft Patrick Mahomes went later in that
I didn't say it, Bears fans.
Just
okay, Kev did, but you guys have Caleb Williams now, so all is good.
Context here. Hey, I do want to ask
we'll
one
see about
thing
that.
Here, because Mel
He's
said
all right.
something, and Fields' face, because we didn't have it on camera, caught by surprise here. He said he would take Hunter, and Mel, you just brought up draft Hunter and then move up the trade for Shedeur Sanders. Field, I want your reaction to that. Is that something you would consider if you're the Giants? Matt as well. Would you consider doing something like that?
I would consider it for sure, Kev. I just would say this. If you do it, just remember, you got to be prepared to be aggressive and perhaps overly aggressive to get back into the first round somewhere to take Shedeur Sanders, because you're not competing really with anybody at number 3. Hypothetically, you could be competing with the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21. Heck, the Raiders at 6 might want Shedeur Sanders. You just run a lot of risk by not taking the quarterback if you are sold on that player, number 3 overall.
Let me tell you, if that happens, it would be absolutely
story of the
crazy.
draft.
It would be a fantastic storyline. It's 4.0 mock draft, 3 picks in, and Mr. Ironman, Mr. Two-Way, Mr. Heisman winner Travis Hunter still available. Number 1 on your big board. Are the Patriots high-fiving at 4?
Yeah, we can also now add Mr. Patriot to Travis Hunter's resume, as the Patriots would sprint the card, and this would be an absolute no-brainer for a team that obviously has a gigantic wide receiver need. We'll see how soon Stephon Diggs is on the field, but he's the most natural playmaker in this class. Both
Drake May and Travis Hunter,
defense,
baby.
Kevin, the absolute steal for the Patriots at number 4 overall.
All right, let's bring in Matt Miller and Mel Kiper Jr. And Matt, when you talk about what he can do, he can dominate on Saturdays as a wide receiver as well as a defensive back. When we talk about position, what's his best position in fit here with the Patriots?
Yeah, for the Patriots specifically, I think it is at wide receiver. Field mentioned it. We have Stephon Diggs coming back off an ACL injury. He's expected to be the number 1. There's an opening here for a number 2. They do have some young wideouts. Christian Gonzalez. They added Carlton Davis at corner. They have Marcus Jones in the slot. So there's not as an immediate need for him to play on defense. You still want to get him some reps on that side of the ball to keep him happy, but I think he is a future number 1 receiver, and you want to help young quarterback Drake May. This is the best way to do it.
Yeah, Matt, Drake May is not going to let Travis Hunter play on defense. If I'm going to be on the quarterback and I got Travis Hunter, you mentioned the hands, you mentioned the ability to separate. This kid is awesome with the ball in his hands. He's a phenomenal talent. Drake May needs that. And he would have that in Travis Hunter.
We want these ball skills this kid's got. We want that at receiver. Because if you're playing defense, they can just not throw at you.
3 or 4 corners in the NFL.
Whereas on offense, we determine what happens, which means we can force feed him that ball.
They get Travis Hunter, arguably the best player in this draft, my best player on my big board. But If Shedeur doesn't go and Hunter goes 3, what's that scenario look like for the Patriots? And they're looking at Will Campbell, left tackle out of LSU, Armand Membo, tackle out of Missouri, or maybe Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. So things would change dramatically if Shedeur doesn't go to the Giants at 3 and Hunter does. Then it would be a little bit of a scramble to see, do you want to get the left tackle or do you want to get the defensive tackle?
Yeah, that's well said, Mel. And I do believe the answer for the Patriots at pick 4, if neither of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter is available, is Will Campbell out of LSU. Mike Vrabel, their head coach, talked about this during the owners' meetings. They evaluate him as a left tackle. Obviously, that's been a much discussed topic because of the fact that he had 32 and 5/8 inch long arms at the combine. They jumped up to 33 during the LSU Pro Day, but the team feels as though this guy got the job done at a very high level in the SEC, which is the closest thing to the NFL that college football has to offer, that he would play left tackle in the NFL if he winds up with the Patriots at number 4. Certainly, though, I think a lot of people would be enthusiastic
offensive line
in New
still
England
needs a
if
lot of
Hunter
work.
is available.
Okay, Mel brings up a point here I want to bring up here specifically to you, Field, since this is your mock. He talked about the idea that if Shedeur doesn't go 3rd and the Patriots are picking a 4th, there's a roster that needs a lot of holes and to be filled here. Do you pick up the phone and talk to the Raiders and talk to the Steelers and say, hey, do you need a quarterback? Do you entertain that, Field?
I think you make that conversation start now, Kevin, because the reality is once you're on the clock draft night, there's so many moving targets. You only got 10 minutes to work with, right? Trying to negotiate a deal is not an easy thing to do. So, yes, I think the Patriots would gauge the market on a potential trade back. The trick for the Patriots is if you get too far down the board, how does your left tackle stack look, right? If you don't love the tackles beyond Will Campbell, or if you're more comfortable with a guy like Kelvin Banks, who might be sitting there in the middle of the first round, or maybe even 21 overall, you'd feel comfortable with that big move back. That being said, I do think the Patriots would also be content sitting at 4, taking Will Campbell and helping Drake May in a meaningful way that he did not have last year.
You got to be careful because that left tackle spot is critical to Drake May. He's your franchise. He's your franchise. You looked at the offensive line, right? That left tackle spot is a major problem. And for Drake May, you got to look at Campbell or Membo. You can't lose both of them by moving too far down to Fields' point. So it's going to be really tricky for the Patriots to try to work this all out.
Second straight year with a top 5 pick in New England, something they had not done once from 1995 to 2023. It's been a while. All right, let's go back to the big board with the Jaguars on the clock. Here with Field at the touch screen. So we got 4 picks already in your mock. At 5, what do you think the Jaguars do?
I'm in my Dan Orlovsky era right now. This is awesome. Mason Graham, to me, the 3rd best player in the draft, fills a gigantic need for Jacksonville, who pretty much, if you play defense, would fit what they are looking for in this year's draft. To me, the best defensive tackle in a very, very stout class. All right, number 6 overall. I can't resist any longer. Ashton Genty, the 4th overall player on my big board, finished just behind Travis Hunter in Heisman Trophy voting last year. Who's their head coach? Pete Carroll. Has he ever shied away from wanting to run the football? The answer, of course, is no. All right, the Jets have a pretty big right tackle need right now, Kevin. Armand Membo, the best right tackle in this year's class. He's 20 years old. He had a dominant season this past year. He, along with Tyler Warren, I think improved their stock as much as any non-quarterback in the entire class this year. He's big, physical. He is nasty as well. Carolina looking for guys that can help them in any way on the defensive side of the ball as well.
I think every single mock has had Jalen Walker to Carolina.
And on the edge for Georgia would fit the bill for Dan Morgan, the GM of Carolina, who, of course, was a linebacker during his own playing career first at the U and then in the NFL. 6.5 sacks each of the past 2 years for Jalen Walker. Let's move things down here for picks number 9, 10, and 11. We got to slide things down just a little bit because we're going to take ourselves a swing at number 9 with the New Orleans Saints. That being, to me, one of the most fascinating players in the entire class. Shamar Stewart kept 4.5 sacks in his entire career. That being said, all kinds of upside because of some rare physical traits. Go back to the big board here where we can see our best available, and the Chicago Bears do not overthink it too much right here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give him Will Campbell, who I believe is a left tackle despite his 33-inch arm length. This guy was terrific in 3 seasons at LSU. Wrap things up with San Francisco 49ers, whose defensive line depth chart is quite thin these days. Walter Nolan, 6.5 sacks this past season at Ole Miss. All kinds of pedigree coming out of high school. One of the most disruptive players in the entire class, pound for pound.
Wasn't Walter Nolan the #1 player in high school this year?
A lot of cost-cutting measures with that 49ers roster. By the way, keep in mind, Nolan, 12 tackles for a loss, lined up as a defensive tackle, second best in the FBS. Field Yates mock 4.0 as we move on to the Cowboys at pick number 12. Field, who are they taking there?
Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona, 6'4" and just a little bit, plus 219 pounds. Kevin, over the past 2 years, only one player in all of FBS has at least 1,300 receiving yards in each of those seasons. You guessed it, it's Tetairoa McMillan. Outstanding size, very good in the red zone.
Cowboys now take the first wide receiver that only plays that position, because Travis Hunter can play, of course, wide receiver and defensive back. Mel, what do you think of this fit? This idea of McMillan, specifically the pick for the Cowboys and the fit of this young man from Arizona?
Yeah, it's a need, no question about it. But I think when you look at where he is on my board right now, he's at 2021 area, and you're picking at 12, which means you're going to get somebody in your top 10. Is it going to be Matthew Golden, wide receiver Texas, who I think has moved ahead of McMillan? Ran 4.29, had 9 games this year, Golden did, averaging 20-plus yards per catch after a heck of a year at Ohio State. But Matthew Golden, to me, would have to be in the mix here for the Dallas Cowboys. Cornerback is a neat area as well, and a running back, maybe like Amarian Hampton, could be in the cards there for the Dallas Cowboys. So really a lot of options on offense, running back, receiver. If they want to go defense, they could go corner. Will Johnson, Shanae Barron, cornerback from Texas, has moved up a lot after running as well as he did at the Combine. So I think it's going to set up really nicely. If you're the Cowboys, at those 3 spots, you're at 12. Get somebody in your top 10. Maybe one of those guys will be available at that point.
Kevin, you're an Eagles fan. If the Eagles and the Cowboys play in week 1 of this upcoming NFL regular season, and Vic Fangio lines up opposite an offense that is led by CeeDee Lamb and then Kevontae Turpin and Javonte Williams, who are you afraid of? Mel likes these fear factor players. So do I.
Yeah.
Who scares you? Who puts an ounce of fear that's not named CeeDee Lamb in that offense? The next best option, probably Jake Ferguson, who is a solid tight end. That being said, the Cowboys need a difference maker in the passing game. And while I think Omarion Hampton will probably go somewhere in the first round, we'll talk about that in just a little bit, I just think the Cowboys need to address positional value at a significant need at wide receiver. T-Mac may be imperfect, but opposite of CeeDee Lamb, they don't need a guy to take the top off the defense.
Yeah, I think they have to get a pass catcher here. And you mentioned Jake Ferguson. He had a disappointing last year at tight end. They have Luke Schoonmaker, who was the second-round pick a few years ago. I don't know that I would rule out Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland here as that difference maker in the passing game. We've seen tight ends like Brock Bowers. We see what Trey McBride and Sam Laporta have done. A tight end can be a number 2 in an offense, and both those players would be fantastic values. I know you have them coming off the board here shortly, Field, but I'm with you guys. Dallas needs another weapon offensively, and even with what they've done, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, you could go running back here, absolutely, but right now they have to find another weapon for Dak Prescott, and they have to give CeeDee Lamb some help. McMillan's size definitely does that. I'm with Mel. I would go more for the speed aspect, giving them a little bit more yards after catchability. Matthew Golden's there, and you know I have to mention him. Luther Burden III from Missouri. I know he's not going to go this early, but he should, because I think he's the best receiver in this class outside of Travis Hunter. Obviously, the Cowboys have some options to help this passing game.
Keep in mind, Brian Schottenheimer, it's his first time as the head coach and taking over an offense. Dak just needs help. Plain and simple, help him. You're paying him all that money. You got to help the guy.
Dak needs help
right,
because he's
that's
not
the 12th pick.
an
Let's
elite
take a look now
quarterback.
at some other picks here. Let's keep it rolling and finish off the top 20.
Here we go, baby. Speed round 13 through 19. Will Johnson goes to Miami. The Dolphins have a
Malachi Starks to the Bucs. I like that pick
need.
a
We'll
lot.
see on the speed there, but a very good player. Tyler Warren, don't need to overthink this one. He had 700 yards.
Took Tyke
after the
Smith
catch
last
season.
year.
The Colts haven't had a 500-yard tight end in a single season since Eric Ebron back in 2018. The Falcons are desperate, and I mean desperate, for pass rush help. They had the second fewest in the NFL last year. Mike Green provides that. Kelvin Banks Jr., a player that I like, could play left tackle for Arizona, in which they could kick Parrish Johnson Jr. over to the right side as they continue to build that offensive lineup. Gray Zabel, to me, a plug-and-play, has some Joe Tooney-type traits to him to help that Cincinnati offense. Then they can spend the rest of the draft on defense. Matthew Golden, who Matt and Mel just mentioned, speed to that Seattle Seahawks wide receiver room, which, of course, has been reshaped. And then Malachi Starks goes to Tampa Bay to play alongside Antoine Winfield Jr. That team was certainly down in the dumps defensively last year. He would help get them back on track, which brings us to pick number 20 in the mock draft, Kevin. The Denver Broncos don't have a whole lot of needs, but Omarion Hampton would help fill one of them. He, the running back out of North Carolina that we were just discussing, back-to-back seasons of 1,500-plus rushing yards. To me, a reasonable value here. I've got him 26th on the big board, not as high as Mel, but to me, the 26th-rated player going 20th overall to a team that last year had a total of 4 runs from running backs. 4 that went
Hampton's
for
a really good player,
yards.
and you know Sean Payton will get his running backs going.
Let's
so I
check
think
in
that'd
on
be
Mel Kiper. Mel, you okay?
Not
we
a Broncos
got 2
fan,
running
but I
backs
think
now
that'd be
in
fine.
the top 20. Are you okay with that? I just want to make sure. Okay, it looks like you're fine here.
He thinks I'm too low on this guy.
It looks like you're fine, but I do want to understand the gap here between Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton. Is that a wide gap here? Are there 2 tiers? Or are they still in the top tier together?
There's a gap, but not a major gap at all. And some think 1 and 1A at running back. Some teams do. For Hampton, Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos are moving up, right? They're moving up. And they're a team ready to roll. They need a running back, though. This is a plug-and-play running back who could be one of the Rookie of the Year candidates. He can run, he can catch, and he can block. That last line of defense for Bo Nix, Omarion Hampton can handle that responsibility. You think about where we are right now with Hampton. The gap between Hampton and the third running back, whether it's Travion Henderson, Ohio State, or Quinshon Judkins, Ohio State, Caleb Johnson, Iowa, Dylan Sampson, Tennessee, that's a bigger gap. The bigger gap is running back 2, which is Hampton, to running back 3, okay? So for Omarion, we were able to accomplish this year with a rookie quarterback emerging. Hey, if Omarion Hampton's there, I would write it in pen.
Keep in mind, there have been 3 seasons in Carolina history to which a player ran for at least 1,500 yards. Omarion Hampton has 2 of them.
Pretty good.
Just take a look at the hamstrings and the quads. My goodness, it looks like you're watching Saquon, a young one. In the Sports Center special, the Steelers have the 21st pick in the draft, but before they make their selection, they need answers to their biggest question. Will Aaron Rodgers be under center in Pittsburgh? Mike Tomlin and owner Art Rooney II addressed that this week.
He's been in this thing a long time. I've been in this thing a long time, but it's no substitute for, intimacy and spending time together and getting to know one another in a non-competitive environment.
We keep hearing that, he's, I guess, headed in our direction, and so that seems to be, all signs are positive so far.
He had a little pitch and catch, too, with DK Metcalf, and it got all the internet talking. So now Aaron Rodgers not on the roster so far right now, Field. Are they taking a quarterback with their 21st pick?
Yeah, kind of double-barrel justification here, Kevin, because, yes, right now, Aaron Rodgers is not a Pittsburgh Steeler. So the depth chart is razor thin with just Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. Give me Dak, Jackson Dart, third quarterback in my rank. 2 in December, Kev. Never too soon to start planning for the future at the most important position in all of team sports.
So you see Jackson Dart, the third quarterback, off the board here. Mel, you have Dart in your last mock. Specifically, you have Dart in your last mock going 9th to the Saints. It feels like the biggest roller coaster ride, night 1 even to night 2, could be Jackson Dart being around him because it is so wide open. What do you think of him going 21 to the Steelers?
A lot of this depends upon Shedeur Sanders. Where does he come off the board? Kevin Field knows this, and Matt knows this as well. You're talking about a guy like Jackson Dart, 9 down to 26 to the Rams, or somebody trading back in. The Steelers, because of Aaron Rodgers, getting to the Steelers eventually, don't have to force it if that happens. They have Mason Rudolph. They keep saying, we're comfortable with Mason Rudolph. Really? Okay, in that division? Okay, if you want to be. But you got to get better. But if you have Aaron Rodgers, here's the problem. Do you help Aaron, a Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, right? Or do you get the heir apparent? If you love that quarterback enough, you take the heir apparent. If you don't, you help Aaron Rodgers over these next year or 2. Get you to where you want to be. You've been a playoff team, but can you get to the playoffs and do some damage, right? So you got to help Aaron Rodgers. So it's got to be a quarterback you really feel strongly about. If it's not Jackson Dart, maybe Shedeur's there. Tyler Shuck from Louisville has gained a lot of momentum. He's Louis Riddick's favorite. We'll have to see what happens. It'll be really interesting to see what the Steelers do with this pick. Do they help the quarterback, or they do to get Aaron Rodgers heir apparent?
Yeah, Mel, I think this is a team that has to learn from past mistakes. We look at the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era. They didn't have a quarterback in waiting, and they backed themselves to a corner. They took Kenny Pickett in the first round. He's now a backup with the Cleveland Browns. That's how that's gone. So I think Pittsburgh, even if you get Aaron Rodgers, if you love Jackson Dart, make him the pick. Double up at the quarterback position because you have not had a plan since really the last 3 years of Ben Roethlisberger's career for what this position is going to look like moving forward. And I like Jackson Dart a lot, but he's going to need some time coming out of the Lane Kiffin RPO offense. Now, he's great on intermediate passes. He's really good under pressure. He's pretty good on deep balls. But you know what he's really done a lot of? Play action passing. He's not just had to stand in the pocket, break down a defense, and throw on time. He's going to need to acclimate to the NFL. A year or maybe two behind Aaron Rodgers is going to give him that. But nothing in Aaron Rodgers' play the last 3 seasons would make me feel confident that he's even going to make it through this next year as your starting quarterback. So I think Pittsburgh would be very wise if they do love Jackson Dart to make him the pick here.
Yeah, and to be clear, as far as I'm concerned on Jackson Dart, I've got him 35th on the big board, Kevin. I'm not as convicted on the players I know Mel is, who has him, I believe, inside of his top 20. That being said, given the circumstances right now, this is the second time in this draft that we're talking about circumstances driving a quarterback decision. The Giants at number 3 overall being the first such example. That is not the ideal construction for how you want to be chasing a quarterback. But the reality for Pittsburgh is this. The team every single season, literally, of Mike Tomlin's career has been at or above 500. They made the playoffs 5 straight times and lost 5 straight times in those games. They are going to often find themselves floating in this range of too far away from number 1 overall to have a surefire quarterback prospect, but not good enough when it matters the most to win playoff games. I get it. There is some risk. I'm not as convicted on Jackson as Mel is, but it gives you at least a chance in a division that features Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow to eventually get back to success at the highest levels. Mike Tomlin says the standard is the standard.
Does anybody think Jackson Dart in a few years is going to be the savior in the AFC North for the Steelers that competes with Burrow and Lamar or the other AFC quarterbacks? I think
Jackson Dart's mentality is that of a Steeler. You're talking about highly competitive, really tough, aggressive player, can beat you with his legs. Jackson Dart wants to be a really good, great quarterback. He'll do everything in his power to become that type of player. So I think from that standpoint, it's a good fit for this organization. But again, the X factor is going to be, and we're going to be looking at this throughout the whole first round from pick 3 all the way down the line until Shedeur Sanders comes off the board, because he's my number 1 quarterback for a reason. He's a heck of a player. I think he can be a franchise-type quarterback. Jackson Dart's not as highly rated as Shedeur is, so that's going to be, do the Steelers move up a little bit if they see the Shedeur slide? Or do they stand pat and just wait it out? They did when Ben Roethlisberger came out. They waited it out after Rivers and Eli Manning went before them. So are they patient? Do they just wait it out? Shedeur is going to be the story of the first round if he gets past the Giants.
And keep in mind, Dart is the winningest quarterback in Ole Miss history by both wins and winning percentage, not Eli Manning. All right, Field, let's rip through some more picks, starting with the Chargers at 22.
Colston Loveland, the reunion, he goes to play for Jim Harbaugh, who, of course, he played for at Michigan. Michael Williams from Georgia, 14 sacks, had all the pedigree coming out of high school, had 14 sacks in his college career. The Packers need edge and corner help. Jahdae Barron, quarterback from Texas. I know Matt loves him. He had 11 pass breakups last year and 5 interceptions. My guy, Big Donovan Jackson, the top 20 player for me, goes to the Texans, who have reshaped their offensive line this year. Max Hairston, the fastest player at the Combine, 4.28, gives the Rams a legit investment at that cornerback spot. James Pierce Jr., he could go higher than this, has plenty of talent, was more dominant in 2023 than 2024. Derek Harmon had 1 season in Oregon. It was terrific. He led all FBS defensive tackles in pressures. Nick Emanwari from South Carolina. I call him the DK Metcalf of defensive prospects because you simply don't find players with that height, weight, and speed combination. He lit up the Combine after 4 interceptions, 2 of which he returned for a touchdown in 2024.
29 picks off the board, and we have our first trade in Fields. Mock, walk us through it here at 30.
The Patriots, who of course need a left tackle, having already drafted Travis Hunter, they can move up the board to the division rival, the Buffalo Bills, who aren't afraid to play the trade game. They move up, which includes moving pick 38 to Buffalo to land Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle from Oregon. Here are the specific terms. The Bills get the Patriots 2nd and 3rd. The Patriots
There's no way the Bills are helping us get our left tackle.
Buffalo, of course, last year made 2 trade downs from 28 to 32 and 32 to 33. Brandon Beane, always an active trader on draft day. Josh Connerly Jr. had a remarkable final season at Oregon. He was the front side protector here for Dylan Gabriel, that left-handed quarterback. They put a different style of offense compared to what they were with Bo Nix. Much more fast, get the ball out quick with Bo. Connerly was really good and was especially good against Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. That, as you may know, Kevin, the biggest test of his season, with Abdul Carter lining up for at least some of the snaps big, steady, solid 33.5-inch arms at the combine. Really good player.
Matt, what do you think about this move by the Patriots to move back in the first round?
No, this is smart. This is the way you play the draft. This is the way you stack your board. And I'm a big Connerly fan. I got to meet him last year at the O-Line Masterminds Clinic in Frisco, Texas. He's an impressive young man. This is a player who is a running back in high school. He outgrew the position, moved to the offensive line, and you still see some of that in his game. The agility is there, how he moves as a pass protector, the way he gets to the second level in the run game. He has to continue adding strength. But we've seen that over the course of his career. He's gotten stronger. He's improved his base. And I think he's one of the true left tackles in this class that actually has a first-round grade. A lot of these players we've talked about, teams see them as right tackles, teams see them as guards. Josh Connerly is a day one left tackle. So the Patriots check off their two biggest needs by far. They get a wide receiver, they get a left tackle. This is great, and no one is happier than Drake May would be right now.
I was just thinking about that. Drake May is so pleased
so
right now.
So if the Patriots pick in the second round at what, 36 or whatever, we couldn't get him at 36?
Out, of course, in 22 days. Mock 4.0, we have another trade here late in the first round. What do you got, Field?
Let's go, Kev. Second time it features two teams from the same division. The Raiders move up to 31 to grab Luther Burden III. The wide receiver from Missouri ran a 4.41 at the combine 2 seasons ago. He looked like a top 10 pick. Wasn't as dominant this past season, but he is big. Pick number 32, Jahad Campbell. The wait is, yes, this team is also waiting on Kobe Dean's return, but when has Howie Roseman ever been bothered by the possibility of having to wait a little bit on a spectacular player? Him, Zach Bond, and Kobe Dean at some point this upcoming season would be downright frightening for opposing offenses as the Eagles continue to do their best, which is always finding value. Go to the second round, the Browns, after bypassing a quarterback at pick 2, take one at 33. They take Louisville's Tyler Shuck, 25 years old, played 7 years in college, was once a very highly recruited prospect, and Justin Herbert's backup at Oregon. This kid's got a very live arm. He's a good athlete as well. Had a great season for Louisville this past year. Tyler Shuck would not be surprised if he ends up somewhere in the late 1 or early 2 range.
You mentioned his age. He turns 26 in late September. Back with Mel and Matt here. The Browns finally get a quarterback in round 2, the first pick in that day 2 experience. What do you think of this fit here, Mel, with Shuck going to the Browns?
Like the fit. Think about the Cleveland Browns weather, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh weather, right? Tyler Shuck. You think about an LTPer, looks the part at the quarterback position. He is. He's intriguing. Injuries at Texas Tech. Going to be 26, as you mentioned, Kev, but he can spin it with a clean pocket. He can spin it on the borderline, right? Wasn't that a Madonna song? Late first, early second round for Tyler Shuck.
A Madonna reference.
Yeah, I'm a Tyler Shuck fan as well. Hey, listen, I had him at 33 in my 7-rounder, so Field is definitely copying my homework, guys. But I do like the fit, and he could play early in the NFL because of that college experience.
Great homework, by the way. I'm trying to get an A on the grade. I'm trying to get an A on the paper, but I'm still blown away. Madonna. Let's go, Mel.
Just don't say anything about Like a Prayer, Mel. That's all I'm saying. The rest of the show, don't say anything else. All right, let's review some standouts in this second round, starting with another quarterback, Field.
That's right, Will Howard. The Saints move up to pick number 61 with Washington. They end up with Will Howard as a developmental piece behind Derek Carr, who effectively has just 1 year left on his deal with the Saints.
Tennessee Titans, they don't get Abdul Carter, right? They get Cam Ward. Well, they get the second best pass rusher in this draft in Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. Not only talented, but super productive. 6'2.5", 247 pounds, but great length, closing speed, tremendous athlete. Love the way this kid plays coming off the edge.
Field, I love what you've done for the Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles should just write this down. This should be what they do. Getting Emeka Egbuka at wide receiver, and then getting their running back in Quinshon Judkins. We know that Ben Johnson's going to want to have guys that create in space. Egbuka could be his Amon-Ra St. Brown with what he does underneath. He's a great slant route runner. He's also the best run-blocking wide receiver in this class. That's going to help when you have a backfield like this one. You want to help Caleb Williams? This is how you do it, getting winners.
So when we take a look at this review of this mock, Field has helped Drake May and Caleb Williams immensely.
I'm big in New England. I'm big in Chicago.
Patriots fans. All right, that'll do it for us. For Field, Mel, and Matt, I'm Kevin.